Hey everybody. Yeah, so as I touched upon in an earlier video, um, I kind of thought this channel would be one of two things. Um, Initial idea for it was like more well thought out, infrequent videos, longer infrequent videos, or in the case of what made me actually create the channel in the first place, sort of like casual, shorter, like daily journal type of videos about the books I'm reading, in this case Don Quixote, and I've kind of fallen somewhere between the two, the worst version of the two, which is very infrequent, long form, casual, like low effort videos. So yeah, I did say I should have actually started a channel like this like years ago, but that's the last time I'll mention that. But yes, it clearly has turned into this like, yeah, casual, low effort, long form video every like month or two. Sort of the worst versions of both those options. So apologies for that, but there's a reason for it. As you can see, this is what 3 kids does to a man, okay? We had our son, we had our third child, super healthy, doing great. I'm rocking him next to me right now. And just in all honesty, this is the first chance I've had a spare second to do something like this. So a couple things to touch upon. Unfortunately, not a whole lot to report back on the book. Similarly to not being able to make a video, I haven't had much to make a video about in the case of Don Quixote, because I've been reading at a rate of like a page a day. But I am making this video today about Don Quixote and a couple things about it. One, this is more to gloat than anything else. I was talking to my friend George, and as I usually am doing, and he sent me a little paragraph here I'm going to read because he's been reading Borges. He's been reading Borges's non-fiction essays. And there's quite a few mentions of Cervantes and Don Quixote in this collection, and I wanted to read this one specifically. So, Milton refers directly to the Holy Spirit, whose temple is the bosom, in the crack of the page, bosom of the just. All of them felt that there was something more in a work than the voluntary intentions of its author. On the final page of the Quixote, Cervantes says that his intention has been nothing other than to mock books of chivalry. We can interpret this in 2 ways. We can suppose that Cervantes said this to make us understand that he had something else in mind, but we can also take these words literally and think that Cervantes had no other aim, that Cervantes, without knowing it, created a work that mankind will not forget. He did so because he wrote the Quixote with the whole of his being, unlike the Persiles, for example, which he wrote with merely literary aims, and into which he did not put all that was dark and secret within him. Shakespeare may also have been assisted by distraction. It may help to be a little distracted in order to write a masterpiece. It may be that the intention of writing a masterpiece inhibits the writer, makes him keep a close watch on himself. It may be that aesthetic creation should be more like a dream unchecked by our attention. So, right, kind of what I said. Kind of what I was saying in the last video. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. Me and Borges are kind of like same brain, same mind going on here. So this is like a little extra tidbit to the last video I made directly about Don Quixote, where I posited that like this was just essentially a joke, a prank of a book that has turned into like the novel, and maybe the only way you can actually create such a genuine work of that scale or that impact is to not intend to at all, right? So the other thing I wanted to mention about it, so just so you know, I'm at the part with Cardenio and his story, crazy guy in the mountains and stuff, and Don Quixote is currently not even in the book. He's on his own little crazy mountain self-imposed solitude. And the only thing I had to like mention is that it hit me that Don Quixote is reminded me of another character, and I want to look more into this connection, and maybe people do know more about this connection. he is reminding me a lot of, is it on, can you see it in the camera? Can you see it? Where's this book? Here. It's reminding me a lot of this. John Kennedy Toole's A Confederacy of Dunces. Both main characters I find are quite similar. Ignatius, I've heard it pronounced both ways. Ignatius, I think, is right. I read this when I was like 18 or 19. It was one of the first truly like literary books that I read intentionally for it being a literary book. But I went into it very cold, and it just totally blew me away and was so hilarious. And I like bought books for I bought copies of it for like my family and friends, and of course they never read it. But that's how I felt about The Confederacy of Dunces as a late teenager, and the kind of like bumbling confidence and the delusion of the characters in like this comedic sense is like very, very similar. And so of course I wouldn't have known to look into the relationship when I had originally read it, but I think there might be something there for sure. Obviously Ignatius is a little bit more, a little bit ruder and cruder, but we'll see, because Don Quixote is pretty violent and crude as well. What are we at? 6.5 minutes. That's pretty good. Were this to be the actual like intended like kind of video diary of my experience reading the book, this would be perfect video. But I know coming after like a month or 2 months or whatever it is, it's definitely leaving a little bit to be desired. That's not to say I haven't had tons of video ideas come through my mind, because I have, but it's almost like, I feel like with stuff like this too, when they're like thoughts that I haven't really planned out or like written down, if I don't articulate them within the first few days, the kind of edge is lost, the passion, the conviction is lost a bit. I know my buddy Orpheus made a video about history a few months back, and I had had a response to that plan with some anecdotes of my own and some observations of my own, but it's kind of like they're not really swirling around up there as much anymore. I want to make a video, I don't know, let me know if any of these sound interesting, about Spielberg's Disclosure Day, which I did love, but it's more a wider video, a larger video about, you know, how the public watches movies and what they want from movies versus what I want from movies, or how I watch them, I guess. And I think just things that people don't, it's not so much like people don't know how to watch movies, but I kind of think that's partially true. But just the differences between what I want from movies and what like the public seem to want from movies, coming from someone who has, you know, studied them deeply for too long. I wanted to make, I've been listening to audiobooks as well, which I guess could kind of definitely be something I could be talking about more. I listened to this book put out by Penguin called The World for Sale, and I want to make a longer form video about that, which is all about commodity traders, the history of commodity trading, and its consequences for mankind, essentially, and the economy. And it led me more down a rabbit hole into private equity and private equity companies, something I have personal experience dealing with the evils of, and just kind of the way things are set up financially in the world, the way the deck is stacked against people. Private equity companies, commodity traders, the world for sale, kind of diagnosis of that. Of course, that's only the financial sector of the Western world. You have, you know, literal genocide happening right now, which is really hard to ignore and talk about other things during, as it just gets worse and worse every day. What else? I'm probably forgetting stuff, but I've had a few video ideas. I got music. I wanted to do, like Apple does their replay every month, so I wanted to make it like a monthly thing where I show my replay on camera. Maybe May and June's replay together, Now, of course, it's about to be July. So let me know if that is something that sounds interesting. I might just stick to that being like I make a video about the yearly Wrapped sort of thing. The replay with Apple. I'm with Apple. I might just make it like a yearly yearly video. I don't know if that's something people would be interested in monthly, but I do want to talk about music more. And I have said I want it to like the lore, the canon of like what I like to just be built organically. I'm not gonna backtrack and be like, these are my favorite movies, these are my favorite albums or whatever. But it's like one thing, one way to accomplish that was like actually show what I'm recently listening to. So maybe I can do that now for a couple minutes. Recently played, so I can show some of this. So this album just came out today, Opus Kink, The Sweet Goodbye. I haven't heard the whole thing yet, but the singles are really great. They're kind of like post-punk but dancey, it feels like there's a million influences mixed in. The one I really like is called The Head Tree, featuring the New Eves, and it has this like almost sea shanty vibe to it, almost like they're pulling from like 18th, 19th, 20th century like folk songs, and then throwing this like post-punk twist on it. They got the saxophones going. It's kind of like a BCNR vibe, but not as dark, not as brooding, that's for sure. There are a lot of bands that have come out that sound like that are good, like good enough. Like this, it's probably not in here anymore. It was a band I listened to. It's probably not in my recently listened to. No, I think they're called Blue. One sec here, just to make this point. Now this video is going to become like 25 minutes long, talking about music. Called Blue Bendy. That's what it is. I mean, or so the voice is kind of like Morrissey sounding, kind of like, you know, Isaac from BCNR or even Cameron Winter. Kind of sounds like this post-punk band that people have forgotten about that I really like, called Ought. So it like sounds good on paper, and there's a lot of bands like this. And the album got good reviews. It was good enough, but it's like they're following like the blueprint that a band like Black Country New Road has set, and so it's kind of like, that's what I've been calling it. It's kind of like blueprint music, like it's followed, but it's a blueprint followed then rather than created, if that makes sense. So I would prefer, I prefer the bands that obviously create the blueprint rather than follow them. And I don't know why, like I don't know if that's really a quantifiable distinction that you can actually hear, but for some reason it is for me. So some of these bands like Blue Bendy, which people really like, I mean that's a pretty small band, but they don't have that staying power. There's one or two good songs on that album, but then a band like this new Opus Kink album, I think I'm going to really like, because it doesn't feel like it's following that blueprint, if that makes sense. Alright, well maybe I only have time to just talk about one, but I've been going through a lot of classic rock this month. CCR, the new Charlie XCX album I think is great, music, fashion, film. I like it more than Brat, so you know, come at me. I think it's really catchy and simple, weird production, and I like these like kind of chopped up guitars over the Brat sound, honestly. But I've been a long fan of Charlie XCX, an OG fan. So the new Strokes album is really weird, but of course always catchy stuff. I listen to Purple Mountains album a lot for some reason. Well, I mean, it's because it's amazing, but obviously it's quite depressing. Checked out some new bands, Swap Meet, Mount Zero, didn't really make an impression on me. The new Frost Children EP had a good song on it. Yeah, that's it, really. I'll just mention that. The rest are just kind of like, yeah, Led Zeppelin. I've been going through Led Zeppelin's discography. Zeppelin's kind of like Spielberg, in my opinion, which I'll explain maybe another day. What I mean by that, because I've just rambled on another 6 minutes and barely looked at the camera. But yeah, music, movies. Oh, what did I see that was? Oh, I watched Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. Highly recommend that if you're a fan of making stuff. and Matt Johnson's the most charming man in the world. So I'll die on that hill. All right.